The first thing Elena Crawford noticed was how tired he looked. Not the ordinary tiredness people complained about over conference calls or late dinners, the kind that vanished after a good night's sleep and a strong cup of coffee. This was something heavier, something that had settled into him over years, not hours. It showed in the way his shoulders curved slightly forward, as if he were always bracing against something invisible, in the slow, deliberate movements of his arms as he guided the mop across the marble floor, in the pause, just a second too long before he straightened his back, pressing a hand against it when he thought no one was watching. Elena stood just inside the doorway of her office, one hand still resting on the edge of the glass door. The building was quiet now. Not completely silent, there was the faint hum of fluorescent lights, the distant whir of the HVAC system, the muted echo of water sloshing in a bucket, but quiet in the way only corporate buildings became after hours, emptied of urgency, emptied of ambition. Most people had left hours ago. Executives rushed home to dinners waiting on polished tables. Engineers logged off to sink into couches and screens. Assistants shut down their computers and carried their lives back into the city. And then there were the ones who stayed behind, the ones who erased the evidence that everyone else had been there at all. The janitor moved steadily down the hallway, eyes focused on the floor. His reflection stretched across the glass walls, long, thin, almost fragile against the gleaming backdrop of success and money. When he reached her doorway, he stopped just long enough to nod. "Good night, ma'am." His voice was calm, not rushed, not resentful, kind. Elena blinked, momentarily startled, as if she hadn't expected him to speak at all. She nodded back, the motion automatic, practiced. "Good night," she replied. He continued on, the soft rhythm of the mop returning to the hallway. Elena stepped back into her office and closed the door, but the sound followed her. Swish, pause, swish. She glanced at her desk. 3 screens still glowed. Charts, numbers, projections, the language of control, the language she understood better than anything else. She'd been the last one in meetings again, the last one to argue, the last one to leave. That was who she was, who she had built herself to be. Yet her eyes kept drifting back to the glass wall, to the man moving through her world without ever being part of it. She grabbed her coat, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, and stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut with a soft chime, sealing her inside a mirrored box. Her reflection stared back at her. Perfect hair, immaculate suit, a face trained to reveal nothing. A woman people described with words like intimidating, brilliant, relentless. The elevator descended. Floor by floor, the building emptied beneath her feet. But her mind stayed upstairs, with the tired man and the mop. When the doors opened in the lobby, Elena didn't move. The security desk was empty. The marble floors gleamed under artificial light. Outside, the city pulsed with life, headlights streaming past, voices drifting through revolving doors. She stepped forward, then stopped. Her car keys felt suddenly heavy in her hand. She turned. The janitor stood near the time clock, signing out with careful strokes, as if each letter mattered. He removed his vest and hung it neatly on a hook, straightened it, smoothed it. Only then did he pull on a jacket, old, worn, thin at the elbows. Elena's chest tightened, and she didn't know why. This was ridiculous. She was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. She didn't follow employees home. She didn't linger in lobbies watching people clock out. And yet, when he pushed through the front doors and stepped into the cold night air, she followed, at a distance. She told herself she was just walking, that she would turn back any second. He didn't go toward the parking garage. He didn't stop at the bus stop. He walked, past the glow of restaurants where laughter spilled out onto sidewalks, past couples holding hands, groups of friends clustered together, warmth radiating from windows. He didn't slow, didn't look in. Block by block, Elena followed, her heels clicking too loudly, her coat pulled tighter around her body. The city changed as they walked. The buildings grew shorter, older, the sidewalks cracked, storefronts darkened. Streetlights flickered instead of glowing. Finally, he stopped. A small house stood before him, its paint peeling, porch sagging slightly under its own age. One dim light burned inside. Before he could reach the door, it flew open. "Daddy!" A little girl ran out barefoot, launching herself at him with complete trust. He laughed, really laughed, and caught her easily, lifting her into his arms. Hey, you're gonna freeze." Another child appeared, older, holding papers close to his chest. "Dad, Miss Harris sent another note. It's about the field trip money." The man's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Then he kneeled down, bringing himself level with them. "We'll figure it out," he said calmly. "We always do." Alina felt something inside her break. Not loudly, quietly. She turned away before anyone noticed her standing there. That night, Elena Crawford lay awake in her penthouse apartment, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, the numbers didn't follow her into sleep. Faces did. The next morning arrived too quickly. Elena Crawford stood in front of her bathroom mirror, hands resting on the cold marble counter, staring at her own reflection as if it belonged to someone else. The city outside her windows was waking up, sirens in the distance, traffic humming, but inside everything felt suspended. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the little girl running barefoot into the cold, the way Daniel's face softened when she called him Daddy, the way his smile flickered just for a heartbeat when money was mentioned. Elena straightened her jacket, smoothing invisible creases. She had faced hostile takeovers, public scandals, billion-dollar negotiations without hesitation, and yet this unsettled her more than any of it, because this wasn't a problem she could solve with strategy alone. When she arrived at the office, it was earlier than usual. The sun had barely crested the skyline, light slanting through the lobby windows in pale streaks. The building felt different in the morning, less imposing, almost fragile before it filled with people. She stepped inside and stopped. Daniel was already there. He moved quietly, wiping down the glass doors with slow, practiced motions. His lunch bag sat neatly against the wall. The same old jacket hung over the back of a chair. He looked up, surprised to see her. "Oh, good morning, ma'am." "Good morning," Elena replied, her voice softer than usual. "You're here early." He smiled faintly. "I like to get a head start, easier before everyone comes in." She nodded, unsure what to say next. Words, usually her strongest weapon, felt clumsy. "What's your name?" she asked finally, though she already knew the answer. Daniel Riaz." She held his gaze. "Thank you for taking care of this place." He blinked, clearly not expecting that. "Just doing my job," he said gently. But Elena noticed something then. The way his shoulders straightened just a little, the way his eyes softened, as if being acknowledged, truly acknowledged, was rare. She walked to the elevator, but her mind lingered behind. From that day on, she noticed everything. She noticed how Daniel quietly fixed a wobbling chair in the conference room instead of tagging it for maintenance, how he stayed late to scrub coffee stands out of the carpet after a rushed meeting, how he carried himself with a quiet pride that didn't depend on recognition. On Fridays, muffins appeared in the break room, not store-bought, homemade, slightly uneven, wrapped carefully in foil with a handwritten note taped to the counter. "Please take one." People took them without thinking, without asking who made them, without wondering why. Elena wondered. She found herself asking questions she'd never asked before, reading HR files she'd never cared about. Daniel Reyes, employed 5 years, no disciplinary actions, no complaints, no requests for raises, no sick days unless absolutely necessary. Widowed, 2 dependents. Her chest tightened as she closed the file. One afternoon, as she walked down the hallway toward the elevators, she slowed. Voices drifted from the conference room. They're finalizing the outsourcing plan. Night staff goes first. Alina stopped. Outsourcing. She remembered the spreadsheet, the meeting she'd half listened to, the quick approval. Cost-effective, efficient, necessary. Her signature sat at the bottom of the page. Daniel passed her moments later, pushing his cart, humming softly under his breath. He nodded politely, unaware that his life was about to be upended by a decision made in comfort. The weight of it settled over her like a physical thing. That evening, Alina didn't go home right away. She waited. When Daniel clocked out and stepped into the night, she followed again, no longer pretending this was coincidence. When he noticed her this time, surprise flickered across his face. "Miss Crawford?" She stopped a few steps away, suddenly unsure how to exist outside her title. "I'm sorry, I know it's unusual. I just needed to talk." He hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." Inside his home, warmth wrapped around her immediately. Not luxury, comfort. The smell of soup simmering on the stove, children's drawings taped to the walls, shoes lined neatly by the door. His daughter peeked around the corner. "Daddy, who's that?" "This is my boss," he said gently. The girl's eyes widened. "Like the big boss?" Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, like that." Alina smiled, feeling oddly humbled. She sat on the couch, hands clasped, feeling out of place among the worn cushions and scattered homework. "How do you manage everything?" she asked quietly after a moment. Daniel considered her question carefully. "I don't think about it all at once," he said. "I just do the next thing. Make dinner, help with homework, go to work, repeat." "And when it gets hard?" He looked toward his children, who were coloring at the table. "It's always hard," he said softly, "but they're watching me. If I break, they learn to break." Alina swallowed. She told him then about the layoffs, about the outsourcing, about the mistakes she'd made. She expected anger, fear, desperation. Daniel simply nodded. "I figured something like that might happen someday," he said quietly. "I appreciate you telling me." "I'm so sorry," she whispered. He met her eyes. "I believe you." That night, Elena walked back into her penthouse and stopped in front of the mirror again. For the first time, she didn't see a CEO. She saw a woman who had forgotten what her power was for. The boardroom felt colder than usual. Not because of the temperature, everything in the building was climate controlled to perfection, but because of the silence. The kind of silence that pressed against the ears, heavy and expectant. Elena Crawford sat at the head of the table, hands folded, posture straight. Around her, the board members settled into their seats, suits crisp, tablets glowing softly. These were people who spoke in margins and forecasts, who measured success in quarterly gains and exit strategies. She had been one of them for a long time. The screen at the far end of the room lit up with familiar charts, cost analysis, operational efficiency, projected savings. Outsourcing janitorial services. Elena watched the numbers scroll by, but her mind wasn't in the room. It was in a small house with peeling paint. It was in the sound of a little girl's laugh. It was in the calm voice of a man who had said, "I believe you," when she didn't feel she deserved belief at all. "We can reduce overhead by nearly 18% over the next fiscal year," the CFO said, topping the screen. "It's a clean-cut, minimal disruption." Minimal. Elena inhaled slowly. "Before we vote," she said, her voice steady but quieter than usual, "I want to ask a question." The room stilled. "When was the last time any of you stayed in this building after midnight?" A few puzzled glances exchanged. "When was the last time you cleaned your own office floor," she continued, "or emptied your own trash after a 16-hour day?" Someone cleared their throat. "Alina, with respect, I'm not finished," she said, gently but firmly. She stood. For a moment, she said nothing. She let the silence stretch. Let it become uncomfortable. I approved this plan because on paper it made sense, but people don't live on paper. She turned toward the screen and with a click replaced the spreadsheet with a photograph. Daniel, Sophia, Lucas. A quiet gasp moved through the room. This is Daniel Reyes. He's been with this company for 5 years. He's never been late, never filed a complaint, never asked for more than what he was given. And he is not an exception. He is the rule. She let that sink in. Our janitorial staff are not line items. They are parents, caregivers, human beings who hold this company together when no one else is here. Someone shifted uncomfortably. This isn't personal, Elena. It's business. She nodded. Exactly. And this is the business I want us to be in. She took a breath. Effective immediately, we are canceling the outsourcing plan. We are implementing a living wage policy for all employees, no exceptions. And we are creating a scholarship fund for the children of our staff. The room erupted. Questions, objections, warnings. Elena listened. She didn't interrupt. When the noise finally faded, she spoke again. I built this company on innovation, she said. But innovation without humanity is empty. If any of you believe profit matters more than people, you're free to step down. No one moved. The vote passed. Later that day, Elena sat alone in her office, the city stretching endlessly beyond the windows. The adrenaline had faded, leaving something quieter behind. Relief, fear, hope. She pressed a button on her desk. Can you ask Daniel Reyes to come up? She said to her assistant. Minutes later, a knock. Daniel stepped inside, hat in his hands, shoulders tense. You wanted to see me, ma'am? Please, Elena said softly. Sit. He perched on the edge of the chair as if afraid to take up too much space. She slid a folder across the desk. We're not letting you go. We're promoting you to facility supervisor, full benefits, a raise, and your children qualify for the scholarship program. Daniel stared at the folder. Once, twice. Then his hands began to shake. His voice broke. He stopped, took a breath, tried again. I don't know how to thank you. Elena felt her own eyes burn. You already have, she said. Every night you showed up. Every time you chose kindness when no one was watching. Tears slipped down his face, unguarded and honest. I just wanted to give my kids a chance, he whispered. Elena nodded. Now you can. That evening, Daniel walked home with lighter steps. Sophia raced ahead,